Turn one soul ring.
Better
chop that off. Chop it. Yeah, chop it.
Chimney chop.
Chip it chop.
Yes, we're going to change the format of the show and just talk about things that we can chop for the next, at least 100 episodes. I'm sure we could talk about a different utensil.
Will it chop?
Okay.
There we go. There we go. That's definitely going to increase our presence on YouTube.
Sponsored by Slap Shop.
Oh man.
Oh man, that guy beat up hookers. The slap chop guy. He was, he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
And not because they were, it's like just don't beat up anybody, hookers or otherwise. Like if hookers are fine.
They just
don't beat up
happen to
anybody.
be prostitutes.
Yeah, they just happen to be prostitutes. You would probably beat up anybody, but I think some people feel safer beating up on prostitutes because maybe they're already breaking the law. I'm not sure
Because they're that more fucked up.
Yeah, that's a little bit. And then, like, what
could
don't
be.
They have pimps that are going to come and just wreck your day.
Yeah, they do actually. If you beat up on them, that's true. Yeah, because you're messing with the merchandise. So yeah, I wonder if that ever happened to him.
Oh my god!
I wonder what he's doing now. But anyways,
we went from talking about things we can chop up to talking about the politics of being a prostitute.
Well, that's what that slap chop ShamWow guy does to us. But we're gonna start the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Turn One Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be dexplaining Eric's Magda Dwarves and Dragons Commander deck. We're going to start off with a bit of lore regarding Magda, then we'll get to the deck list, and we'll wrap things up with some additional cards that Riley and I have painstakingly researched that might be good includes for this deck. And Riley, I think, what was the last one that we did when Riley and I were on this side of the bench? I think it was that
It was Gen.
Gen, that's right. Yes, the enchantment build. And I really tried to beef up my list this time so that I just had I'm sure you still have more cards than me, but I
actually don't think I do. I'm a little light this time around.
Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe we'll meet in the middle.
Maybe. But before we get to any of that, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us?
Listeners, you can find us over on Instagram at Turn One Soaring the Podcast. If you want to contact us directly, we do have an email address, turnonesoaringthepodcast@gmail.com. And then we throw everything onto YouTube. The best way to find us is searching up Turn One Soul Ring the Podcast. And if you really like what we're doing here, you like our content, why don't you go and check out our Patreon page? We have one of those guys. So it's patreon.com/turn1soulring.
Yeah, and that's only if you really like what we're doing here. Also with Instagram, it is really the best place to get in touch with us, either by DM or simply commenting on our posts. And if you really want to help us out and get more exposure on Instagram, go ahead and hit that save on our posts, the ones that you like. I understand if you have a very carefully curated saved portion of Instagram, it's kind of what my personal account is like. So you do whatever you need to do. But anyways, we're going to find out more about this mono red commander, this mono red legendary
best color in Magic.
Dwarf lady. It just keeps getting better and better. It's certainly not the worst color. So Magda is, of course, a dwarf berserker from Kaldheim. And Riley, I'm going to stop you right there because I'm sort of thinking of Kinnan Bonner Prodigy, and this is not going to be a repeat of that Simic commander. There's actually some juice here. So Magda's story begins after just a knockdown, drag-out fight with her family. Following that fight, she left her home and vowed never to return. And so she's and I guess the fight had something to do with Magda becoming disillusioned with Dwarven society. I'm not really up to speed on what Dwarven society is like on Kaldheim, but I think she was disillusioned with it because after her self-imposed exile, she took up with a bunch of other hobo type dwarves, for lack of a better term, that were unhappy with dwarven society. So they were unhappy. She went to live with them, and I'm assuming they got along and had ideological similarities, but together they wandered across the 12 realms of Kaldheim, looting and plundering as they went. So they were basically a gang of tiny criminals. That being said, they became notorious in their roles as thieves and raiders, and on top of all that, despite law enforcement's best efforts, they were uncapturable, probably because they were so tiny. So at some point in their criminal travels, Magda and her crew stumbled across a clutch of dragon eggs, and they didn't steal them. At least the information I have is that the eggs were abandoned. That's just according to the dwarves in Magda's gang. I don't know if she was there when they found the eggs, but anyways, imagining the benefits of having a set of personal dragons at their beck and call, Magda and her gang took the eggs and also took some time away from their usual criminal activities to care for the eggs. And
that's sweet.
Yeah, that is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of little dwarves caring for dragon eggs that are probably the size of their torsos, like they're big eggs.
Yeah.
And so it's unknown if the gang was successful in getting the eggs to hatch and having healthy baby dragons, and further in taming them. And that's a story for another day. But that's kind of fun, and it makes Magda very flavorful. I'll just read her. She's 1 in a red for a 2/1 legendary dwarf berserker. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. Sacrifice 5 treasures. Search your library for an artifact or dragon card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So, it's flavorful from the perspective of they have these treasures and they need to use the treasure to supplement their income, which is stealing, so they can take time off to look after these eggs. That kind of tutor effect to get the dragon onto the battlefield. So that's kind of fun.
And it is also cool because there are lores where like dragons really like treasure, and so you're using the treasure to get the dragons. So that's also a nice little.
Absolutely, yeah. And Eric, I know. Speaking of that, I noticed you don't have Covetous Dragon in that deck, so I think that's a flavor fail.
He was in there, and it was on the chopping block.
Yeah, I probably would. I would have cut him too. So we're gonna get to the deck list, the categories, and a reminder that you can follow along with us as we go through the deck categories by using the link in the show notes. That'll take you to the Deckstats deck list. So before we get to the first category, which is dragons, Eric, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what the goal of this deck is, besides creating a bunch of treasures and getting dragons on the battlefield and doing dwarvy criminal things.
That's pretty much what the deck is about.
Okay, awesome.
You can definitely make this deck. I feel like I actually feel Magda can be pretty competitive. Because there's a lot of like artifact stuff you can do. There's some pretty mean combos. I didn't throw some of them in. Like I didn't do the you can like tutor up Megasynth Lattice and blow everybody out with Vandal Blast and stuff. So there are mean things like that you can do. I didn't put any of that kind of that stuff in here. We're here to have fun, so we're here to get dragons on the battlefield. One little thing is like, since we are doing combat damage, there's a lot of like other red stuff that kind of like deals out damage here and there. So there's a lot of like pinging happening to like all opponents, and then hopefully we can also hit them down with our dragons in the air to kind of like finish them off. So there is other ways of dealing damage, not just like the creature damage. So we will see that in the end later as well. Yeah, and I always find that a lot of fun in Commander when I'm constantly pinging down my life total. Like Riley, your Northern the Wary deck, like I actually do enjoy that kind of gameplay where, or like Nekuzar, where you're slowly just inching your life total down. It's sort of, it almost feels like there's a clock on the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Norrin's an unassuming threat. That's for sure.
Yeah. You have a few commanders like that.
Yeah. They just sneak up on you.
They do. So the first category we have here is dragons. We have Balefire Dragon, Goldspan Dragon, Hellkite Charger, Hellkite Igniter, Hellkite Tyrant, Nullspine Dragon, Lathless Dragon Queen, Leyline Tyrant, Scourge of the Throne, Terror of Mount Velis, Terror of the Peaks, Utvara Hellkite, and World Gorger Dragon.
The George.
Ooh. The George, yeah, the Gorger. It's fun. It's fun to say. I gotta say, I really like the inclusion. I mean, it's obvious, but we just finished our Kaldheim set review. This is a Kaldheim Commander. I'd really like to see Goldspan Dragon in here. I'd really like to see what that card can do on the battlefield.
Yeah, and like since we're making so many artifacts, if we want to use them for mana, having the Goldspan Dragon out there just is awesome because now everything's doubled. So.
Yeah, a nice way to ramp out the dragons in your hand, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We do have 2 dragons in here that can get us extra combat phases. So there's the Scourge of the Throne and then the Hellkite Charger. So that's having dragons be able to swing twice in a turn is definitely pretty scary.
Oh yeah, definitely. So many games of Commander, you just don't have the ability to block flying with your deck. You just didn't build it in, or you're playing in a game where it seems it's one of those things that it's a mechanic that's always there. It's a clear and present danger, but so often I find myself not being able to deal with it. It's an oldie but a goodie. I do like the inclusion of Hellkite Tyrant, because this is also an alternate win condition. It's 4 red for a 6/5 dragon with flying and trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. But what I really like about it in this deck is oftentimes you'd have to play this, you'd have to give this flash or something. Unless you wanted to wait for that upkeep, but with Magda, you can tutor it up with the treasure at instant speed, and if you have the artifacts, you just win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, I mean, like if somebody's building up a board of artifacts, do it on the end step before your turn. It has like a pseudo haste, and then just swing in, steal all their artifacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, just having 3 or 4 dragons on the battlefield can be a win condition. Like they're not.
Yes.
They're not. It's not dissimilar to having a bunch of sphinxes on the battlefield. You're swinging with 4/4s and 5/5s, and it just it goes quick when that starts.
Yeah, big threats.
Yeah, for sure.
Inherently. Eric, I wanted to ask the question though. World Gorger Dragon, like traditionally, World Gorger Dragon has combo potential. What kind of combo are you looking to assemble with World Gorger Dragon?
There is one other card that it works with, and I'll mention it when we get there.
Right. Sounds good.
It is very much in the world of jank, but
you're speaking my language.
I think it could be fun. Yeah, so if you could pull it off, it'll be pretty cool.
I remember opening World Gorger Dragon in a pack from when it was originally printed, which was it Judgment or Scourge? I can't remember, but I think it was Judgment. And I just thought it was, I just put it in a deck with a bunch of other dragons, and I thought it was a really cool card, but I did not utilize it properly. But it's still just one of those cards. I think I think dragons are just super cool, but I've never really taken the time to build a dragons deck. Maybe it's time.
Yeah, I would love to actually just play this deck. I really like, even like obviously there's other color dragons where there are some really cool ones, but after building this, I was like, there's enough like good red dragons that you can definitely just do it.
Yeah.
Then you also have stuff like Lathless the Dragon Queen. It's 4 of anything and 2 red for a 6/6 flyer, but whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield, you make another 5/5 dragon creature. So now all of our dragons are becoming 2 dragons. And then she has an ability. And then she has an ability where you pay 1 in a red, and all your dragons get pumped with +1/+0. So then if we have this huge reserve of like mana, we could swing in and just out of nowhere, it's a lot of extra damage.
Oh yeah.
I threw the Leyline Tyrant in here just because it's a new dragon. I want to see how that card feels playing it. And Then there's some fun stuff you can do with the Null Spine Dragon I didn't know existed. Yeah, it's 5 anything and 2 red for a 7/5 flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to target opponent this turn.
Oh, wow. Okay. That could be extremely spicy.
Yeah. You can probably draw a lot of cards off that guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, the Leyline Tyrant, I mean, so many of the cards from the new sets, like, that we've been talking about the past few months, I haven't really had a chance to see what they're like on the battlefield because, I really haven't been playing Magic. But I think, Leyline Tyrant, especially in this deck, is great because if you're forced to sacrifice all the treasures that you've accumulated, if you have Leyline Tyrant on the battlefield, at least you don't lose that mana.
Yeah, totally.
Assuming you you sacrifice the treasures for red mana, but you don't have to.
I guess you don't.
So the next category we have here is dwarves. We have Bomb Squad, Dwarven Blast Miner, Dwarven Blood Boiler, Dwarven Driller, Dwarven Miner, Dwarven Recruiter, Dwarven Thermaturgist. Thermaturgist.
I think it's thaumaturgist.
Yeah.
Thaumaturgist. Dwarven
Yeah.
Thaumaturgist. 7 dwarfs and Torbran Thane of Redfell.
I bet our listeners at home are thinking like, what are these cards?
Yes. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite category because this was a lot of what are these cards?
Yeah, they're all old border. They're cards that are just like I've never heard of before.
And I'm sure most of them are dirt cheap. Actually, I looked up the Dwarven Thaumaturgist, and it's kind of on the pricier side, but it's because it's on the reserve list.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just read it. It's 2 and a red for a 1/2 dwarf shaman, and it has a tap ability. Tap to switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. This would be great against those defender decks because you can just kill creatures with that.
Totally. Yeah.
But also, a lot of these do have tapping abilities, so you're just you're using the tap abilities with Magda on the battlefield. You're getting that treasure, and the treasure is just incidental value. You're getting to use these activated abilities and do stuff.
Yeah, that is the main reason for it. So there's some that you have to pay for. So it's Dwarven Blast Miner and Dwarven Miner. Both of them have an ability where you pay 3 and a red to tap it, and then you destroy target non-basic land.
That sucks. If you're on the business end of that, it's bad. But yeah, that's a fantastic ability.
I honestly think, as far as dwarves go, and this is one of the challenging things I had with suggestions, is like this is kind of like the best of the best.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Eric, you did a very good job of getting the cream of the crop for dwarves here.
Yeah, and I mean, like 7 dwarves being like some of the strongest dwarves available is a sign.
Yeah. The last couple of years, the best dwarves were printed. So yeah, it's definitely
a 2/2.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones is the Bomb Squad, actually. So this guy is 3 of anything in a red for a 1/1, and you tap it to put a fuse counter on target creature. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, put a fuse counter on each creature with a fuse counter on it. Whenever a creature has 4 or more fuse counters on it, remove all fuse counters from it and destroy it. That creature deals 4 damage to its controller.
Yes, I do like this card. I do like the wall of text. I do like how slow it is. But it is, you just keep tapping. It's all about tapping. I really like the Dwarven Blood Boiler. It's 3 mana for a 2/2, 3 red mana for a 2/2 dwarf. tap an untapped dwarf you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. The +2/+0 is great for combat, obviously, but the tap an untapped dwarf is my favorite part because you don't have to worry about summoning sickness with abilities like that. So you can just you can just start getting treasures immediately, and you can use them if you need to play more dwarfs like this. I think this card is really going to do a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice that it's target creature, right? So you could even put that +2/+0 on a dragon that's already getting in for combat damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that is.
totally.
It is very nice that it's not target dwarf. That would be
That would suck.
And then I think a lot of listeners would know this card, but Torbran I feel is the best dwarf, or maybe one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of anything and 3 red for a 2/4. Ooh, it's a big body. But if a red source you control deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. So we're just putting up more damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This
Good old Torbran.
and things like this. This is relatively. It's not an uncommon thing for red cards to do, just extra damage, of course, but it really adds up. It really adds up quickly, even when you have 40 life.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Macon Treasure. We have Brass's Bounty, Curse of Opulence, Dockside Extortionist, Pirate's Pillage, and Shiny Impetus. Nice to see the Impetus cycle getting some love in this. I feel like we're all very familiar with that, with this cycle, putting it on. In the league, I think there's been a few times where people have put it on. There's an impetus on one creature, so it can only attack one player. This is when we're down to 3 players, and so the other player that's getting attacked puts the impetus on the creature that they're getting attacked by that already has one of the impetuses, and then it just gives that player they can just choose who to attack now. So that was a very interesting thing to find out with these cards. But it's in case you don't know, it's from the Ikoria Commander set. It's 2 and a red for an aura, enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded, which is if it attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. So this works perfectly with this deck. Throw it on a dwarf, get 2 treasures. Just get that treasure.
Now, I do have a bone to pick with you, Eric. Curse of Opulence. Curse of Opulence makes
A
gold
gold token.
tokens.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
That is fair.
Tisk. It's
Tisk,
still a good
tisk.
card.
It's a good card. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these don't make treasure, obviously, but it's still more mana, and it kind of fits with the theme. So
absolutely, yeah. And
they should have just thought of treasure in the beginning, and then everything would have just been treasure.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the gold tokens, didn't they start with the original Theros block with the King Midas ripoff? Right? They gave you a gold token, or the gold tokens predate that black card. It's King something, but I can't remember exactly what he does.
I know what you're talking about, but also I don't know if they do predate that or not.
Yeah,
well,
I'm not
anyway.
sure, but they're basically better treasures. Just they only have to be sacrificed to add a mana of any color instead of having to be tapped and then sacrificed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dockside Extortionist, just an amazing card. I can't believe the current price on this card. If you have a sealed, what is that? It's the Jeskai Commander from 2019.
Yeah, it's the one that Eric got.
Yeah, it's one that.
Yeah,
Eric
it is the one I got. I didn't use that commander, so I don't even remember.
It was Savine. That's right, because the signature Savine's Reclamation is a solid card. But yeah, just Dockside Extortionist getting you all those treasures. It's a great casual card. It's a great competitive card. It's just it's a great card. And WotC, please reprint it.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like it's around 45 US right now.
Yeah, it's huge.
Next up, we have artifacts. Is this category? We have Cage Sun, Coat of Arms, Dragon's Horde, Eldrazi Monument, Endless Atlas, Extraplanar Lens, Inspiring Statuary, Paradise Mantle, Perpetual Timepiece, Ruby Medallion, Soul Ring, Springleaf Drum, The Immortal Sun, and Treasure Map, which is a flip card. On the flip side, you have Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove.
You
Those
could
are the
almost put
artifacts,
that one
everybody.
under Macon Treasure.
Macon Treasure. It does say treasure in the title, so I think that might be an honorable mention, Riley. But why are you're getting ahead of us? Come on.
Well, it does make treasure eventually.
It does, yes.
It does.
It does.
So this definitely does. I wanted to keep all the artifacts together, but that is definitely a better treasure maker than Curse of Opulence. So.
Yeah, this is a real mixed bag. Like, you do have some. This is where a lot of the ramp cards are. Extraplanar Lens. I know what that means. Eldrazi Monument, just to get that buff, and Indestructible. Very nice. But Dragon's Horde is an interesting card. It's 3 mana for an artifact. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on Dragon's Horde. Then you can tap to remove a gold counter from Dragon's Horde to draw a card. And you can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I did not know this card existed, but it's an interesting way to draw cards.
I was definitely playing this card in Standard.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good card. Just from playing in Standard, it definitely did a lot of work. And what's really cool is it doesn't. It just is a dragon. So even if it's a dragon token you're getting, so if you have the Utvara Hellkite making tokens or the Lathless making tokens, like, we get more counters off that, and being able to draw cards, that's good for reds. So.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the inclusion of Paradise Mantle and Springleaf Drum. I think those are
heck yeah.
Very, very cool pieces of ramp and utility for tapping down your dwarves, especially if you don't want to spend the mana to activate their abilities. But like Paradise Mantle in particular, being a 0 mana artifact equipment that has equip 1, and it can tap. It gives the equipped creature the ability to tap and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You could chain it together almost, like assuming your dwarves don't have summoning sickness, you could, tap down your dwarf, move it, tap down that dwarf, move it, and make a bunch of treasure that way. So nice little extra utility there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruby Medallion, always a good, well, not always a good include in monocolored decks, but in the right decks like this one, for example, it can really do a lot of work. The Medallion cycle in general is fantastic, and another cycle that needs a reprint. Unless they... No, you know what? This one was reprinted in the one of the Commander anthologies, because the Duretti deck was reprinted. That's the set symbol I'm seeing there. Eric, I wanted to ask, with you have Perpetual Timepiece in here. It's 2 mana for an artifact. Tap to mill 2 cards, and you can pay 2 to exile it and shuffle any number of target cards from your graveyard into your library. I just wanted to ask, why did you include this in the deck?
Basically, when our dragons go to the graveyard, we have no way of really getting them back. Mm-hmm. And then because we can tutor with Magda, putting them into the library and then tutoring for them again is something that you could feasibly do. So that was my thought behind getting the timepiece in there.
No, that makes sense. Because you really don't want to put the dragons back in your hand. Putting them back in the deck is not bad. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And then we threw a couple of strong things in here as well, since we're able to tutor. So like the Immortal Sun gets us more card draws, and then our creatures get buffed as well. And it hates on Planeswalkers if players are playing Planeswalkers. But also because, again, Magda's ability tutors at instant speed. Eldrazi Monument's also like a form of protection as well. So if we do have those treasures up and somebody board wipes, we can go grab the Eldrazi Monument and be safe from it.
Mm-hmm. Also super interesting is Inspiring Statuary. It's 3 mana for an artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have improvise, so your artifacts can help cast those spells. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1, so you can tap down your treasures to pay for non-artifact spells. That is a very good tech card. That is very, very good.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
man,
it's
that's great.
especially cool that you could use your treasures and then sacrifice those tap treasures with Magda to go get a dragon. So, cast a
Yeah.
big dragon, then go get a big dragon. Could be a fun turn.
Oof, man, that is
Heck yeah.
that is fantastic. I always like to see Endless Atlas in a deck. Didn't know it was reprinted in Double Masters, but Endless Atlas is 2 mana for an artifact. You can pay 2 to tap it to draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. So in mono white or mono red decks, if you're not running this in your deck, I would give it a second look, because 2 mana to draw a card is pretty good in those colors.
Yeah, because obviously those colors do have problems with inherent card draw, so nice piece of tech.
Yeah, especially white.
Yeah.
Especially white. And the Immortal Sun too is just like a hate card.
It's overall value,
Yeah.
as I was saying, because you get an additional draw. Your creatures get pumped, so if you have a bunch of small dwarves out there, that helps as well. And then it makes our spells cost 1 less, so that's always nice.
Yeah.
Then if somebody's running planeswalkers, sure, but yeah, it's just an overall good card.
It is. Yeah,
for
it is.
Commander.
Yeah, and it's getting up there in price as well. So that's definitely speaks to its in-game value.
Yeah.
The next category we have is vehicles. We have Cultivator's Caravan, Mobile Garrison, and Smuggler's Copter. I actually didn't think initially of vehicles when I saw that you were building around this commander, but it's perfect. It's a perfect way to tap down your dwarfs so you don't, without the risk of combat.
Exactly, yeah. It is another way, because we do have the 7 dwarves. They're a good dwarf, but they don't have a way of tapping themselves, so alongside our Paradise Mantle and the Springleaf Drum, we have another way of tapping them down to be able to just get those treasure tokens. And then these all have some sort of piece of tech with them. Obviously, Smuggler Copter being the best. It's a 2 mana 3/3 flyer, and when it attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, and it only crews for 1.
Yeah, and it's the nice thing about crew is you can crew them and you don't have to attack with them if you don't have favorable attacks, and just get your treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and you could crew more than necessary, right? So if you have 9 power of dwarves on the battlefield, you could stick them all into that little vehicle.
Yeah, 2 to a seat. Next up, we have some spells. We have Blasphemous Act, Comet Storm, Jessica's Will, Mana Geyser, and Mizium Mortars. I'm having a real Mana Geyser looking at this deck list. You know what I'm saying? I love Mana Geyser. I think it's a super underrated card. In a game of Commander, you'll often net 8 to 15 mana off this card, assuming you're in a 4-player pod. And obviously, the later you wait to cast it, or the later that you draw it, the more mana you can net off of it. It always makes me think of, I believe it was the first iteration of our Commander League where I would cast Mana Geyser and then copy it 2 or 3 times to get even more red mana, and then leave a couple of black open, use all that mana for an Exsanguinate or Torment of Hailfire. Whew,
Yep.
That was spicy.
I remember those turns.
How could I forget?
Yeah, just. But yes, even without copying it, it's still just it's just a fantastic card. It's a fantastic way to accelerate your mana, especially in Commander when you have multiple opponents with multiple tap lands. I have a lot of love for this card.
Yeah, I like Jessica's Will being a newer card. So it's 2 of anything and a red. Choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. And then so you add a red to your mana pool for each card in the target opponent's hand, and then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So if we're getting a little low on cards, we have a way of casting some more. And then the extra red mana there can help out, because you'll have an opponent that has 5 to 7 cards probably. There should be one person that's not all aggro, and they're
7
cards in their hand.
7 cards. Wow, I think you're getting a little greedy. But
I think 7's greedy, but
maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I've seen Trevor pass with 20 cards in his hand before, so
yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, he's really reactive, He's like, wait for it.
And then, of course, we have the good old Comet Storm for another way to kind of like close out the game. If we're able to make a lot of mana somehow, Comet Storm just wipes your opponents.
Yeah, clears the way for both ground and aerial combat.
Or just clears their face off. Like, you can always target them.
Yeah, too. Yeah. Target the face. Actually, before we move on to the next category, I want to read Mizium Mortars. It's 1 and a red for a sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, and you can overload it for 3 red. So you may cast the spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. So deal 4 damage to each creature you don't control. This is a card I don't see too often, and this is a card that I run in my red decks because like 4 damage is a lot of damage and can most of the time clear most of the creatures off the board, especially if you overload it and you're just clearing your opponent's board. But this is a really great quasi board wipe, and I think this should, much like Mana Geyser, should see more play.
Yeah, I definitely like it since it doesn't hit your own creatures. I think that makes it so good.
Yeah, especially with all your 1/1s.
Yeah, all of our dwarves would just get...
Yes, we don't want to lose Bomb Squad.
Yeah, no.
It's got to stay around for at least 4 turns.
Hey, you can kill a creature in 2 turns because you get a fuse counter at the upkeep as well.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, man.
So 2 turns you kill something.
We have to get like some
Not bad.
kind of we have to get some kind of special like glass ball or little trinket for the fuse counters. Maybe just a little fuse. I might have some fuses laying around.
Tiny little bombs.
Yeah, yeah. The next category we have here is I think this is my favorite named category. It's Goblin Welder, and in this category, it's Goblin Welder. So Goblin Welder it's 1 red for a 1/1 Goblin Artificer. You can tap it to choose target artifact a player controls and target artifact in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. So I hope that wasn't too confusing for anybody.
I couldn't think of somehow to put this guy in another category.
Oh no, I really do.
It's I was like, I'm just doing this. It's gonna be funny.
and like this happens to me pretty often where I'm building a deck on Deckstats and I have like a couple of cards or like one card that doesn't really fit into any category, so I just kind of like jam it into one and hope that nobody comments. And I'm just gonna start doing this. Like I'm, if I have like one of my decks, I just have like Blood Moon, and I'm just gonna like it's getting its own category now. That's it. I'm doing it. I'm stealing this.
But Goblin Welder is great because if there's any of our artifacts that have gone to the graveyard, you can just get rid of one of our treasure tokens that we'll probably have, and get one of our actual usable artifacts back from the graveyard.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. You got lots of fodder.
Yeah, tons.
Next category is Enchant the Board. We have Aggravated Assault, Blood Moon, Fiery Emancipation, Kieran Negotiations, and Valakut Exploration. A lot of powerful cards here.
I thought you didn't want to be mean.
Yeah, this is a little mean.
Play basics.
But I'm in the I've been reading the Mercadian Mask book, the novel, and this it takes place in Mercadia, and the Kieran Negotiations is from Mercadian Mask, and I actually didn't know what a Kieran was. I had to look it up, and it's they're just goblins. Is just what they call goblins there. But I looked up this card. It's 2 red for an enchantment. Tap an untapped creature you control. Kieran Negotiations deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. So in a similar vein to the the Dwarven Blood Boiler, just that tap an untapped creature you control effect. Super powerful in this deck, but in a lot of decks, like if you're producing tokens, you can just kill somebody with this. If you can just keep producing token after token, like I wish I knew about this when I was still piloting my Krenko deck, because this would have just done so much work. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
You use this to tap them, and then you use what is it, Goblin Bombardment, to sacrifice them to deal 1 damage.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
nuts.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Pairs well with Torbrand too.
Yeah. Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh god.
Yep.
Yeah.
Starts turning him into Searing Blazes.
Oh god.
And then we also have, since Torbrand was in the deck, I was like, well, let's double up on that. And so we have Fiery Emancipation, which is 3 of anything and 3 red. The
Yeah.
source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player. It deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead.
Yeah. And
Just-
Yeah.
note, like, I mean, if you control both like Torbrand and Fiery Emancipation, you get to choose which order those
Triggers.
damage effects happen. So like you can make it so that Torbrand's effect will happen and then it gets tripled. So you could deal 9 damage for each creature that you're tapping. So that's going to end games pretty quickly.
It's not too bad. But yes, Riley, I did put Blood Moon in the deck.
You meanie.
And it's really funny. So, like, I remember when I first started playing Magic and I saw this card and I was like, that card is dumb and unfair. And then as I've played more Magic, I have grown an affinity for Blood Moon, and I actually really enjoy this card.
Yeah, well, I think a lot like Graveyard Hate. I think more people should run Blood Moon because it's it's a great card, and we should all run more basics. Come on.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you're a 5-color deck, it just sucks to see a Blood Moon because you're like, well, I can't really run basics. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, well, I hope I have the one of the mana slivers on the battlefield because I am fucked otherwise. The next category we have here is MDFC. We have Casual's Fury, and the flip side is Casual's Cliffs, and then we have Valakut Awakening, with the flip side being Valakut Stoneforge.
all right, so here we go. Say somebody's doing a board wipe. We can tutor for the World Gorger Dragon, which will come out, and then our board, is kind of... Actually, that's the other reason I had the World Gorger Dragon in there, because if somebody's going to do a board wipe, if you tutor for the dragon, it takes away everything. Board wipe goes off. You get everything back.
Yeah, that is nice.
Which is sweet.
Yeah.
But again, if we just have the World Gorger Dragon out, we have Kazul's Fury, which, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Kazul's Fury deals damage equal to the sack creature's power to any target. And then so we can use our World Gorger Dragon kind of whenever we want, and we're able to still have a sack outlet for it as well. But yeah, I forgot that the World Gorger Dragon is mainly in the deck for protection. And I forgot that you don't need the Fury for a second there to actually do the plan.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Yeah, like being able to tutor out a World Gorger Dragon at instant speed to protect your board, like that's pretty cool. Hopefully they don't have a Containment Priest.
But yeah, that's whole. Then it's just a rough day.
Yeah, just in general for this deck, it's a rough day.
Yeah. Also, like Kazul's Fury, if we have the Hellkite Igniter on the battlefield, you pay 1 in a red, and the Igniter gets plus X plus O until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control. So if we have, like 15 treasures, we now have a 20/20. You swing with it, and then you use Kazul's Fury to dome somebody as well. Like, that's 40 damage. That's
That'll do it.
a lot.
That'll do it.
But yeah, Valakut Awakening I think is a really cool card as well, because we tutor for the dragons to get them onto the battlefield. We want to try not to cast them. So the Valakut Awakening is 2 of anything in a red to put any number of, at instant speed, any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library. Then you draw that many cards plus 1. So in turn of like cycling through our hand as well, we may be able to put dragons in there that we want to just be able to tutor for, and then we're drawing like a whole new hand as well. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Nice little piece of tech. And I mean, at its worst, like you can just cycle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
exactly, yeah, you're still drawing 1 for the cycling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even both of these, they're MDFCs. So if you're hurting for lands, you can just play them that way too.
Play the land side.
Next up, we have utility lands. We have Blast Zone, Buried Ruin, Dwarven Mine, Forgotten Cave, Inventor's Fair, Scavenger Grounds, and Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. I'll just spoil it now. The next section is Snowy Lands. It's 29 snow-covered mountains. So I love the inclusion of Valakut. Valakut is a land, of course. It enters the battlefield tapped, and whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, if you control at least 5 other mountains, you may have Valakut the Molten Pinnacle deal 3 damage to any target. And it taps for a red mana. So in a lot of decks, like, you know, I run this in mono red decks, just that incidental value. You can start bolting creatures, you can bolt planeswalkers, you can bolt people's faces. Like it seems it doesn't seem that good, or at least I didn't think it was that good when I first played it. I thought I needed to be pouring lands onto the battlefield, but this card does a lot of work in mono red decks. It's just a great card that you just get incidental value from. So I really like to see it in here.
Yeah, like I really think if you have a mono red deck and you're not running Valakut, maybe look at the deck. If you have a lot of mountains you're running, having your playing a land turn into a lightning bolt as well is a pretty good ability.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's good gravy.
And Kevin, I got the Scavenger Grounds in here. So
nice. Good,
yeah.
Good boy. Eating your vegetables. I like it.
We do have kind of a jank land in here, but it's the Dwarven Mine.
Yeah.
So it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other mountains. So you need 3 other mountains. But if you do get those 3 mountains, when Dwarven Mine enters the battlefield untapped, you get a 1/1 red dwarf token. Got another dwarf.
That's perfect. This should be in the dwarf section.
Yeah, basically it's like the 4th best dwarf. It's a land.
Because it's also a land.
Yeah, it's crazy how this is somehow part of the same cycle as Mystic Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just got banned in Modern.
Yeah.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh well.
But yeah, also since we do have a lot of artifacts, Inventor's Fair lets us tutor for an artifact. So having a land that you can sacrifice to tutor for an artifact is a pretty good ability.
Yeah, and gain a little bit of life with that Metalcraft ability.
Add upkeep.
Yeah. But yeah, just it seems like a really solid deck overall. We have a 3.7 CMC average. It's not. Where's the price here? I thought they gave you the price. Where's the price?
There's about
475. I mean, that's not unreasonable. I don't want to sound like Mr. Moneybags over here, but that's I've certainly spent more on decks. And,
yeah, I think most of the cost comes from like some of the dragons and some of the bigger artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
But
like you like the deck doesn't hinge on you having like a Mortal Sun or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely build it budget.
Yeah.
Like with more like sort of digging deep on the dwarf section.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm kidding. You probably don't want to do that. What do we have here? So we're going to move on to the what I like to call honorable mentions, the segment in these episodes where Riley and I in a nice way, just make some suggestions about potential cards that could be included. But Eric, this seems like a super fun deck. I really like it. You always build like fun decks. You are really, when it comes to like deck building, Eric, you are the nice one. And among the 3 of us, you're definitely the nice one.
I don't believe that. I just finished talking to him about Blood Moon.
Oh, Blood Moon's not even that bad. Sometimes Blood Moon is like a do nothing enchantment, Like,
sometimes, but Blood Moon can still be very backbreaking.
Yeah.
So it's fair.
Yeah, that is fair enough. But it's not like I don't know. I guess Blood Moon could be like it could put you in a situation where you can't play the game, and that's not fun. Whereas if I'm putting a bunch of combos into a deck and the game just ends, that's not fun for a certain swath of the Magic playing population. So, at the end of the day, it's just like what you find fun. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Blood Moon's that bad, but I guess I don't really care for stacks or chaos, and Blood Moon kind of falls into that stacks category, but
Yeah, I think it's kind of a stacksy card.
it is kind of, but like I feel you can still tap the lands. Like I feel like Back to Basics is a little bit worse because your non-basic lands just don't untap. At least with Blood Moons, they're mountains. You could still tap them for mana.
Yeah, because then it's like if you still have some basics out there, then you can use your non-basics now as just like they're the colorless lands. Like that's it.
Yeah.
So it's not. I do agree that I think Back to Basics is definitely more of a hate card.
Yeah, like more of an more of an unfun card to play against.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's we're gonna get to the honorable mentions. I'll kick things off. I don't really have this in like the category order, so just bear with me here. In the utility lands category, I think that War Room would be a good include for card draw. War Room is a land, of course. It taps for colorless, and you can pay 3 mana to tap it, pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity to draw a card. So this, this is from Commander Legends. I haven't had a chance to actually play with this card, but I have slotted it into a few of my monocolored commander decks and Kozilek, where you just don't pay any life. So that's nice. And, it's just really not much of an opportunity cost, especially when you have 40 life. Paying 1 life and 3 mana isn't that much to draw a card in this format. You're obviously making a lot of extra mana with this deck in terms of treasure. Not that you want to use that treasure to make mana, but sometimes you may be in that position. So I just think this is a great utility land for monocolored decks, especially red and especially white, especially white. Like put an extra one on there.
Nice. How do we want to do this? Do you want me to go next?
Yeah, we'll just take turns. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, won't take turns.
I did follow your categories here, Eric. So under dragons here,
ooh,
I got Gadrak, the Crown Scourge.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you had him on your chopping block or not, but I just figured being that we care about treasures, he might actually be a reasonable threat. But Gadrak is 2 in a red for a legendary dragon. He's a 5/4 with flying. And it says Gadrak, the Crown Scourge, can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. And at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So I count everybody's non-token creatures. Just a fun little way of turning chump blockers into treasure.
Yeah, that is an ugly dragon. My goodness.
And I think with this deck, most of the time you should be able to swing with him. And this is actually not too bad. Like if it's in your hand to cast it, it's only 3 mana. So
yeah, and he's a blocker, right? At all times.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more utility lands, and I sort of put these together. I thought would work well are Mutavault and the new call time land Faceless Haven. So let me just read Mutavault. Mutavault taps for a colorless, and you can pay 1 and have it become a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. And Faceless Haven is similar but worse. It's snow land, which doesn't matter in this deck. It taps for colorless. You can pay 3 snow mana. Faceless Haven becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. So just as a way to get more dwarfs into this deck, they both become dwarfs in addition to all other creature types. So if you have the aforementioned cards where you can just tap an untapped creature, these are going to be great. You have to pay for them, which kind of sucks. Like Mutavault is definitely, if I had to pick between the two of them, I would definitely pick Mutavault. But I don't know. It's just the deck seems to be very well put together, and I'm not sure you're going to have too many situations where you're like, I just need that one more treasure to power out a dragon, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how it's going to play, but I
actually like the Mutavault because
yeah.
I mean, like paying 1 isn't so bad, and then we're able to get more treasures to get those dragons out. So having a land as a creature is good.
Yeah, and like you have so many basic lands in this deck. Like you can afford to sacrifice a few more slots for utility lands. Like 29 basic lands is a very healthy number. So you definitely do have a few slots.
Mm-hmm.
Next up on my list, still under dragons here. I felt this one was also fitting for the snow theme. It's a Rhymescale Dragon. So Rhymescale Dragon is 5 red for a snow dragon. It's a 5/5 with flying. It has an activated ability of 2 and snow to tap target creature and put an ice counter on it, and a passive ability that says creatures with ice counters on them don't untap during their controller's untap steps. So I thought it was just like probably a fun way of just being able to, knock down your opponent's defenses if you needed to. So just kind of like a utility dragon.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, not a powerhouse by any means, but I think it might be an interesting include.
Yeah, I definitely missed that one.
So I have an oldie but a goodie here. It's Chaos Warp. So for the some spells category, mono red has trouble with certain permanents, specifically enchantments, and the warp just solves all those problems. It is kind of a boring card to suggest, but
I didn't have it in there. It's a good card for red.
Yeah, it is. It's just a solid card, and they keep reprinting it, so it's never that expensive. It always kind of sits around the same price as a Soul Ring.
Final dragon on my list is Skyline Despot. So Skyline Despot is 5 red.
I think I had.
Do you have it in your list?
Oh yeah. No, I had it.
Oh, I see. And then you cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 red for a 5/5 dragon with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you are the monarch, you put a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So a nice little trick with this one is you could tutor it out with Magda on the end step before your turn, so that you immediately become the monarch, and then untap with an additional 5/5 red dragon, and then have the monarchy at the end of your turn as well, so you get that extra draw.
Yeah, and I really wanted this in the deck because I know we all like the monarch around here. So
love it.
Yeah,
love it.
and I mean you got dragons, so I'm sure you can find a way to keep the monarch or take it back.
Yeah, it's just too bad that it's like an upkeep trigger, like the suggestion that you outlined, Riley, is apt. But if it was like an end step trigger, I feel like that would work a little bit better with the monarch also being an end step trigger.
It'd be a little OP.
What are you gonna do?
I think that's what. Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be good. It'd be better, certainly.
Yeah,
but,
7 mana for 2 5/5s draw card. Like that sounds pretty good.
It is very
good in my
it is
books.
very good. Yes, yeah. But yeah, like you said, it's definitely not going to be difficult to get the monarch back. Keeping it is a different story. That's why monarch is so much fun in 1v1, because the game just becomes about getting the monarch.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't put any dragons on my list. So Riley, it's a good thing you have so many juicy ones. For the dwarf category, I have Mine Layer. It's 3 and a red for a dwarf, 1/1. It has an activated ability for 1 and a red to tap to put a mine counter on target land. When a land with a mine counter on it becomes tapped, destroy it. When Mine Layer leaves play, remove all mine counters from all lands. I don't think they need to do that last bit, but anyways, that's what the card says. So, he's already he has an activated ability. We like that. He's tapping. We like that to get the treasure, and it also doesn't necessarily get rid of opponents' lands, but it makes them think twice about tapping them, which which I like. It is kind of a steep cost, but I think it's sort of in the same, in terms of like power level, I think this is in the same realm as, what was that other card?
There's Dwarven Blast Miner and then Dwarven Miner as well.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, these cards are great because you just get to blow up whatever you want.
Oh, I guess you said Bomb Squad because of the CMC of the card.
Yeah, the CMC and the it's same power toughness, and it's kind of a slower card because your opponents could just never tap the lands and get rid of this somehow. It is just a 1/1. There are multiple ways to buff this in the deck, but I just thought this was like a fun little dwarf. Wow, I'm surprised at the price, $4.59 USD. Huh.
See, these dwarf cards are just old.
They are. Yes, they are. They are very old. Actually, before. Oh, go ahead, Riley.
I was gonna say, and I bet Kaldheim it increased their popularity for Commander, right? Like that's usually how these things happen. You get a weird niche tribe, and then next thing you know, like these weird cards start spiking.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And actually, a card I did want to mention when we were going through the list that I forgot to is Dwarven Recruiter. It's 2 in red for a 2/2 dwarf. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for any number of dwarf cards, reveal those cards, shuffle your library, then put them on top of it in any order. Like this is a fantastic card. You just get to you just get to choose your next few draws. This is like on the same level as Goblin Recruiter.
Except you're drawing dwarves.
But yeah, just a fantastic uncommon from Odyssey. Like this Mind Layer is also from Odyssey. Odyssey must have been a dwarf heavy set. Well, that
Town of the Dwarves.
Yeah, I mean Odyssey, Onslaught, those were that. I think that whole block was tribal themed, but. Anyways, Riley, what is your next card, my dear?
Well, I've got a dwarf as well. I've got Axguard Cavalry. So this is a new one. It's a common. 1 in a red for a 2/2 dwarf berserker. It has an activated ability of tap. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. So I figured this might be a nice little role player, especially since like the other dwarves are pretty much on par with this kind of activated ability.
Yeah.
But just having that little bit of utility to either get one of your dragons out and swinging quicker, or get one of your other dwarves out onto the battlefield with haste so they can activate their ability right away. I just thought it would be like a nice little role player that's got comparable stats to some of the 4-mana dwarves.
Yeah, and if you want to make a little deal with someone to give their creature haste, that can also be a powerful political move.
Yep.
But it's kind of nice having that card because then, you could tutor for a dragon and give it haste right away.
Exactly.
So you can kind of do things a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like dragons should always have haste. Kind of the same way I feel like...
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Well, great. I'm glad we agree on something.
We solved it.
I also kind of...
Oh, boy.
I feel like spirits should also all have flying, but... anyways, I know I'm not the only one that feels that way, but it's just one of those things. Just one of those days, That's for Ainsley. She's gonna get a kick out of that.
Just one of those days.
I have another dwarf. This is the last. I keep thinking of Steven Dwarf. What's he doing now? The last dwarf that I have in my dwarf category is Fearless Liberator. It is also from Kaldheim. It's an uncommon. It's 1 in a red for a 2/1 dwarf berserker. It has Boast for 2 in a red. Create a 2/1 red dwarf berserker creature token. And Boast is activate this ability only if this creature attacked this turn and only once each turn. So much like the what I was saying about Mutavault, just creating more dwarfs, and this does that. So yes, you have to attack, which could be kind of risky. You've got dwarfs. It's a game of Commander. I think I'm just thinking because they're little, they're more vulnerable. But there's so many little creatures on the battlefield that can often get through for damage. But I think this is just a great token generator for dwarfs, and it's doing what your deck wants to do.
Making more dwarves to tap for treasure.
Dwarves.
There you go. All right, I've got one, and I put it under my dwarf category, but it could also go under my dragon category because it's a shapeshifter.
Whoa. Oh boy.
It's Taurian Mauler. So this is an old one,
Oh,
but 2 and a red
yeah.
gets you a shapeshifter. It's a 2/2. It's got changeling, so it's every creature type. So notably, you could search it out with Magda if you really wanted to. I don't know really why you would want to, but it has an ability that says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Taurian Mauler. So I thought, like, as far as dwarves go, this is probably one of the strongest dwarves because
Yeah.
it's also a dragon and it can get big. So it can still be a relevant threat in the late game.
Yeah, and like in my in my Sphinx deck, there's a lot more support for like clones, so I can play clones and get that ETB effect, that sort of pseudo factor fiction effect. But Universal Automaton from Modern Horizons, which is 1 mana for an artifact creature shapeshifter with changeling, and it's I think that's it. I think it's just a vanilla creature. But I run that in that deck just to have the 1 mana. If Unesh is on the battlefield, I get the factor fiction effect. And I don't know if a card like that would be good in this deck, but yeah, like the red cards or colorless cards with changeling are definitely something I'm gonna take another look at because it's not a deep bench when it comes to creature dwarfs, it would seem.
Yeah, I know. And then definitely like late game, like Riley was saying, like this can just be a house. So
yeah. So the next card I have here is, this would go into the artifact section, but it's more for card draw. I don't know if the deck is terribly in need of card draw because I think Magda in her way is, well, she's both ramp and card draw, which is my favorite kinds of commander. Like she obviously needs support. She needs dwarfs, but the dwarfs create treasure, and the treasure creates card advantage on the board in the form of dragons. But I was thinking like a card that I like to throw into red and white decks. Not every red and white deck, but a lot of them is Sandstone Oracle. It's a Sphinx. Strangely enough, I don't run it in my Sphinx deck, but it's 7 mana for a 4/4 flyer. It's an artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. So, I think you'd have to play test this and figure out if a card like this would be up your alley. It is 7 mana, which is quite steep. But I don't know. This is a card that I always kind of put in my card draw list when I'm building a deck that falls into these colors. So maybe it's more of a pet card for me than a strictly good card.
Yeah, I bet you there will be chances where your opponent has like 4 or 5 more cards than you. So it's kind of like it's good. I like it.
Yeah, it'll probably be like a Jessica's Will scenario where they're gonna everybody's gonna have like 7 to 20 cards, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah,
oh yeah.
Trevor, I'm targeting you.
Moving on to the Making Treasures category. I got a new one here. This Impulsive Pilfer. So red gets you a Goblin Pirate. It's a 1/1. And it has an ability that says when Impulsive Pilfer dies, create a treasure token. And it has Encore for 3 and a red. So Encore.
Oh.
Encore, you pay 3 and a red, exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that of this creature that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, and activate only as a sorcery.
And too bad this wasn't a Goblin Pirate Dwarf, hey?
Exactly. I know, that's the only beef I have with it. But it's an early chump blocker, and then late, it's going to generate you a few treasures here and there. So it might be a decent role player.
That's cool.
Yeah, this is a very cool card. Next up, the card I have I think would go into the some spells category. It's in the same vein as Blood Moon, and Riley's gonna think it's mean. It's Ruination. It's 3 and a red for a sorcery. Destroy all non-basic lands. This is a card that I've run in a lot of mono red decks, and it can be backbreaking, whether it's early game or late game, but especially early game. People are playing fetch lands. They're playing dual lands to fix their mana, and you're just playing a bunch of mountains, and this can just... this wasn't the card that won me the game, but this was the card that accelerated me to the point where I could win the game because I was so far ahead on mana. So this is another just like punishing greedy mana basis cards, and definitely one of my favorites.
You're mean.
Well, yeah,
I think that one's a little meaner than Blood Moon.
I am mean. It is meaner, and I'm no, I never. I think I'm definitely the mean one in this trio.
All right, another one in the Making Treasures category, and this is one that I'm a little bit more skeptical of, but it's got two things in its favor. It's Vault Robber. Has this one been mentioned? Did you mention this one, Kevin?
No.
Okay.
No, not yet.
1 in a red.
Is this the one that like gets a creature out of your graveyard?
Yeah, so 1 in a red. It's a dwarf rogue. It's 1/3. You pay 1, tap it to exile a creature card from your graveyard and create a treasure token. So it does pair fairly well with Magda in that it's basically getting 2 treasure tokens out of it, but you do have to fuel it with creature cards from your graveyard. So the setup cost is real. Like I don't know how easy it's going to be to continuously activate Vault Robber, especially if we want to be able to, shuffle in some dragons back into your library. But definitely one that is worth, I guess, exploring to see how it plays out. I know in limited it's a little underwhelming, but as far as dwarfs go, it's not the worst.
Yeah, I could. I definitely did look at this card and consider it. Because you don't want to be exiling dragons from your graveyard, but I could see exiling some dwarfs in the mid early turns if there's been a board wipe or you've had to block or what have you. So this getting 2 treasure tokens off something like that's when it's really working for you. I think just using the ability on its own in a vacuum, I don't really like it. But if Magda's on the battlefield, then that's where it's at. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, basically, like I did look at this card, but I think Riley, basically everything you said was like my sentiments on it. It's good.
So much like Chaos Warp here, I have a couple of more like kind of boring includes. I noticed that Greaves and Boots wasn't in here. I think something to consider since the deck is pretty dependent on Magda to get the engine going. I know that I think we all tend to veer away from the auto include type cards. Like these when we're building decks for the show, we want it to be exciting and fun, but I think it's always important to eat your vegetables. So I don't think like put them in immediately, but I think if people keep blowing Magda up, then think about it. But I think like Magda overall is an unassuming commander. I don't think she's gonna get targeted immediately for removal once the first few times you sit down to play with this. After people have been hit in the face a few times with dragons or been pinged 9 damage with Torbrand and Fiery Emancipation, then things are going to change. but until then, you can probably get away with not protecting her.
On to some spells. Dragonstorm. Dragonstorm is a 8 and a red for a sorcery that says search your library for a dragon permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, and it has Storm. So I feel like this deck has the potential to generate a lot of mana, especially if you have like Goldspan Dragon and Magda going, like doubling up your treasures, making a bunch of treasures. cast a few spells, cast Dragon Storm. It's probably gonna wreck somebody.
Yeah, or Leyline Tyrant to just save the mana up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's very
Can't
good.
believe I didn't think of
Yeah.
Dragon Storm.
I didn't think about it either.
Yeah.
Well, now it seems obvious.
It's good stuff. That's great.
For the artifact section, I have Hazoret's Monument. Let me just pull it up here. Monument. That's a $10 word right there. So we have, it's 3 mana for a legendary artifact. Red creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So much like Ruby Medallion, except this only cares about creature spells. But this is just going to reduce the cost of your dwarfs. That's where I was thinking about it. And it also gives you the ability to rummage through your deck. I know we don't really want to be discarding a lot of cards in this deck. But just that extra little bit of card draw might be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Very nice.
Nice. Can you believe it, Eric? I found another card for Goblin Welder.
Oh, what? Oh.
It's Goblin Engineer.
Oh, the section.
Yeah.
Right.
Goblin Engineer. I really like Goblin Engineer. I play it in my Nor the Wary deck, and it's like a fantastic effect to have, especially if I
agree. Yeah.
Especially if I care about artifacts. So 1 and a red for a 1/2 Goblin Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. And it has an activated ability of paying a red, tapping it, and sacrificing an artifact to return a target artifact with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, notably, you don't have to get something from your library into your graveyard that has CMC 3 or less. You could get like one of your huge artifacts if you really wanted to, say if you already had your Goblin Welder on the battlefield. But for some of the artifacts that really make your deck click, like, getting an extraplanar lens or getting an inspiring sanctuary, or, one of your utility cards like Springleaf Drum or Paradise Mantle, it might be a nice little tutor effect.
Yeah, definitely.
So my last card here is also going to be in the artifact section. It is, it's sort of more of a, I'm not sure about this card. It's Maskwood Nexus. It's a new card from Kaldheim. It's 4 mana for an artifact. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So that's nice, but it also has an activated ability for 3 mana. You can tap it, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. It is every creature type. So there are a few cards that, maybe not a few, maybe there's a couple cards that create Changeling tokens or turn all your cards into, maybe there's only one card in these colors that creates a Changeling token, that uncommon, it's like an uncommon tree artifact.
From Modern Horizons?
Exactly, yeah. And that's a little more expensive, and it doesn't have that static ability. So I think in terms of creating Changeling tokens, this card is the most efficient for just the cost to activate it. And much like other suggestions I've made on this topic of creating more dwarfs. And also, not for nothing, but if this is on the battlefield and you're attacking with dragons, they're also dwarfs, and you're going to be creating more treasures with them. So, I'm sort of on the fence about this card because it really doesn't do anything. It does create 2/2 tokens on its own. It does do that, but that's 7 mana. So I'm sort of, cards like this, I used to run Hivestone in my Sliver deck, and I just feel like it didn't do enough. Maybe I didn't have enough non-sliver creatures in that deck. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't know. These cards always give me a pause. They seem really cool, but on an empty board, they they really don't do a lot. So I don't know. This is sort of like an I don't know card. It seems like it could be good, but maybe I'm just thinking like Magical Christmas Land.
Well, I mean, I think also with this card, you could use Magda's ability and then tutor for a dwarf instead of a dragon.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely could.
You could.
Yeah.
You're like, I really need another 7 dwarves on the battlefield.
Yeah. I need that buff. Yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's like next level, Eric.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could use
That's good
Magda to
stuff.
search this out, and then from then on out, like all of your creatures are dwarves, and it's all playing into Magda's ability. So, yeah, might be an interesting little pocket synergy there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, that's it.
Hey, me too.
Oh,
wow, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
see?
We
met
did
in the
it.
middle.
We could do like a virtual high five.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if
Don't
that's
touch
the
me.
middle, I'm gonna have to be. Yeah. Don't touch me. Wear a mask. Wear a mask on both hands. That's like the people that are wearing gloves. It's like it's the same as not wearing gloves unless you're changing your gloves every time you touch something. I don't get the glove wearers in this whole pandemic.
Yeah, just wash your hands.
Just wash your. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna because I can feel my blood pressure raising, and I'm just gonna bring it down because we're wrapping things up. Yeah. So Eric, fantastic deck. Seems like a lot of fun. I do hope you put it together in paper so that we can play against it. It's so much fun to tutor for creatures and put them directly onto the battlefield. Like it just feels so good.
Yeah.
So we are going to wrap things up here. As usual, like we said at the top of these categories before we got into all the muck here, you can find the deck list, this deck list that we talked about today, through the highest link in the show notes, the uppermost link. Find that. You can also look at all of Eric's deck lists on Deckstats, including the ones he didn't do for the show. You can also find the links in the show notes to Riley and Mai's deck lists on Deckstats, including the ones we haven't done for the show. And thank you for listening, as usual. And do let us know what you thought of this deck and the cards we suggested by commenting wherever you listen to us. We're going to be back next week to give the Call Time Commander decks a bit of a review. And until then, be safe out there and don't wear gloves. Just wash your hands.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Don't pick your nose either.
Not
Yeah.
At least not when anybody can see it.
Yeah. Wash your hands and then pick your nose.
There you go. There you go.
There you
If
go.
you're going in there, make sure they're clean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Take it easy, and we will talk to you next week.
Dragons.
Bye now.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.